Hey guys, we have an awesome guest for another interview here on the Scratch Golf Show. Someone who's super famous in the golf world right now, one of the hottest putters in the game, Mr. Sam Hahn, CEO of LAB Golf. Sam, thanks for joining the Scratch Golf Show, man. We're really excited to have you.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. This is fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you've done a ton of podcasts, so really looking forward to having you on the channel here. But first and foremost, I know we kind of just talked about it offline, but you have a good Thanksgiving. How was the holiday with the family? Traveled a little bit. How are things lately?
Things are good. Yeah, it was nice to get away with the family, but family's family too. So
Yeah.
I always find myself coming home from Thanksgiving feeling like I need another little vacation, which unfortunately was not the case this time. Right back into it
For sure.
with all the stuff we got going on. We had a big fun Cyber Monday sale, and then we're launching Oz tomorrow. And real busy here, but all really fun, exciting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely want to get into all of that. You guys have had an incredible year. You guys, I feel like every creator uses a lab putter who's not signed to like a big manufacturer club contract. So really excited to get into stuff like that. Want to talk about the Oz, the new putter you guys are launching. Awesome. Well, let's start. Like I said, I am going to try and talk a little bit about the YouTube side of stuff. My partner, Joe, who is going to talk a little bit about the technology side and try and mix in and hopefully give you guys a really quality interview with Sam. So, Sam, I want to start by something very simple. I work in sales, and I've done a lot of selling outside of this, and I obviously sell my product, but I want to ask you a simple question from one of my favorite movie quotes of all time. But your putters are super hot, right? Obviously, the DF3 is one of the hottest putters in the game right now, but from a consumer's perspective, I feel like you try and target that type of audience, the Joes, the I's versus the tour guys, or that type of audience. So my simple question is, sell me this pen, sell me the DF3, and let's hear your pitch on why the DF3 or why a lab putter.
In one hand, I have a putter that stays square by itself, and in the other hand, I have one that doesn't. Which one do you want?
Right?
That's really what it comes down to, and it's so wild, the putter designs derived from full swing clubs.
Right.
Putting when the game was invented was like it was just another shot. The green surfaces weren't that different than the surfaces that they were striking golf shots on. And the physical realities of where it started, as the story goes, it started with a cane.
Yeah.
Somebody started whacking sticks with a cane, so they made a cane a little bit more efficient with a metal head and whatever, and then putters were derived from there. So nobody really took the time to figure out whether or not any golf club really was designed as ergonomically and as efficiently as possible. We just sort of started somewhere and just kept kind of going down that path. And like one of my favorite golf quotes of all time, I don't know it word for word, but it's a Churchill quote. That's basically, the object of the game is to get a small ball into a slightly larger hole with instruments singularly ill-equipped to do so. And it's true. If the thing is like stick, head, ball,
Yeah.
we could have done better. But alas, the rules are now what they are around equipment and what it is. But within the putter space, there's a lot more room for evolution in how one designs the product, and like that it's taken however many 100 years to like figure out, well, within the parameters and the rules of golf, we can make the putter want to go that way instead of any number of other directions. So where in our little world here, where we obviously feel incredibly confident that this particular style of putter is more optimal for everyone.
Yeah.
We try to get folks to think of it from the side of like, what if we were first? What if putters were initially designed to balance and stay square to the path that you're trying to swing it on, and then fast forward to 2024 and somebody comes out with a toe hang putter and is like, no, this is the one you'd want.
Right.
You'd think they were absolutely nuts,
Yeah.
It really is quite simple. Like I said, one stays square by itself and the other one doesn't.
Fair enough. I love it. I love the explanation, but I love the simplicity of the sales pitch, right? Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Sam, could you give us maybe like a little bit of a timeline of what we were looking at the past couple of years? So I know the DF model, right? The original one that was kind of the pride and joy. That's where the technology started. The idea was born with the one slight problem that, you know, it looked like a refrigerator or flying saucer, right? Like
Satellite dish.
people are looking at this thing like I believe it's probably works, but you know, I don't want to look down at that, which is
Sure.
you know fair until they put it in their hands. So I guess after developing that, is that essentially you know technology you use to kind of trim it down and make the you know the latest and greatest DF model and other models to follow? So was it anything
Sure.
more with
Yeah.
that, or could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean the you know product road mapping is obviously a really important aspect of this business and kind of you know being strategic about when and where you release what. When we first got the company and we were you know kind of pitching folks to invest and all that, you know everybody's first question was you know can you make it smaller and look cooler, you know,
Right.
And while, of course, you know, before when I was just a customer, before I had anything to do with the company, I had the same impulse. Then thinking about it from, you know, the company side of it, having such an absurd-looking putter was really important to our growth. If we'd have come out with, you know, Link as the next offering, nobody would really notice. We still see that, like on tour, like what you know, we've had multiple wins with a Link putter, and it really doesn't move the needle very much because for the most part, people just don't notice it. It just looks like any old center shafted blade.
Yeah.
With the DF, it was really, really essential to our growth that you could see it from 3 fairways over. You know, like it was important. We you know kind of in the sort of no press is bad press thing. If people were talking about it being the ugliest putter on the planet, at least they were talking about it. And when we were nobody from nowhere, you know, that was really important. So we were quite deliberate about, you know, not getting into anything, you know, that much more visually appealing early on. The next offering after the original DF 2.1 was Blade 1, which had some manufacturing problems. So it was fairly swiftly discontinued and turned into B2, which was like 180 degrees the other way. It was the most overly simplified looking putter in the history of golf. It was a block of steel on a stick, literally. And it kind of had a little cult following, you know, with it being so trimmed down and, you know, looking the way it did. And then, you know, as the company started to grow and all of a sudden we've got some more dollars for R&D and, you know, and design work and stuff like that, the Mez was next. And the Mez really put us on the map. You know, that was the one where I believe the sort of design goal was simple and palatable enough for anybody to like it, but weird enough for everybody to know that's definitely still a lab putter.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we put our own sort of techno spin on you know, a Fang putter. You know, almost every company in golf at some point, you know, that's now a industry standard shape. You know, everybody's got their own Fang. I love the way that ours came out, but, and it's, you know, it's interesting looking and, yeah, it was designed by a guy named John Bergquist, who's a very talented designer. Yeah, and that was the last putter that we made not in-house, or designed not in-house, and prototypes not in-house. That was a third-party designer that we hired and worked with, and then our engineers had to take his visual design and make it balance, you know, make it manufacturable, make it be able to balance at any lie angle, any length, any weight, anything.
Okay.
And it was, and then, you know, as things grew, we started getting our own CNC machines and more engineers and all that stuff. And now, you know, we can prototype in-house. So for perspective, the Mez had 2 rounds of prototyping. We got the original one, made some notes, sent it back, got it back with those notes pulled off and then put it into production, and that was it.
Cool.
And then the DF3, which was the next putter after the Mez family, had 82 different prototypes before it was
That's crazy.
Before it ultimately came to be. And Oz is, in a similar thing. So, we had the opportunity to really make it perfect. The Mez is an amazing putter. If you look at the sort of feedback that you get on it 6-8 months later from people saying, this didn't work for me, that didn't work for me, these lines, that line, whatever it is, there was things that just, I don't want to say were missed, but just done differently than we would have if we had 98 options to, or tries to make it exactly how we wanted.
Right.
Whereas the DF3, we got to make it perfect. We got to make it totally perfect. And same with Oz, where doing all that stuff in house now is a lot of fun. So I think the original question was kind of going through the history of the product. So
that was great.
All good. We appreciate it. Like I said, we try and keep it pretty conversational. Talk to me a little bit about YouTube, social media. I know you guys have your own YouTube channel. You guys have a very big presence on social media, Instagram, etc. And I know you work with a lot of creators. How much do you think that has helped grow the business over the last few years? And not focusing specifically on YouTube, but just social media in general. How much do you think that has helped grow the business, sell the product?
It's everything. So Bill Pressey is the inventor of lie-angle balance technology, and he founded a company called Directed Force. The putter that we now know as the DF 2.1 was actually called the Reno. And then when I partnered with Bill, we had enough money to make the investment to get it done, and nothing else. So we had no marketing budget, we had no anything. And the way that I met Bill, or no, not how I met him. After I bought the putter from a guy that I knew around here, that guy told me to, friend him on Facebook, and then I started, chatting with Bill on Facebook, and there's, a bunch of forums I'm sure you guys are aware of, Club Junkies and, Golf Club Traders and, and all that. And that was all we had, was to try to, basically bicker with people online about the concept, and we developed this sort of brand voice of, our shtick, which is like, ugly but effective, and we got used to leaning into the reality that everybody was going to question us, everybody was going to call it snake oil, everybody was going to call it ugly, and so we got into a good rhythm of doing that. I think that one of the advantages that we'd had was that prior to golf, I was in the music promotion business, and so my whole world was social media and Facebook and Instagram and all that. And so I had a pretty good handle on how to utilize those platforms to get a message out. And we didn't have the money to make a TV commercial. And as I look around at the industry, like, there's a lot of really cool manufacturers out there making very cool stuff. And I don't mean the big guys, but like, there's a bunch of boutique companies. But a lot of them don't really know how to do the social media thing. They don't know how to handle a comment section and how to handle trolls and how to, do all that. And I think that, mine and a few other folks' abilities to sort of really engage in that not only helped us promote the product and kind of get the word out, but it also helped define our brand. And it helped shape our literal company values, which is that we want to connect with our customers. And there isn't a better way in the world to do that, than doing it directly on social media. We have 160 employees now. We have putters in every country in the world.
That's awesome.
It's a huge company. I'm still the one on the DMs and the comments section, and these things, and like my team in house is wondering like why I still do that, and it's because it's the best real-time market research on the planet. You're getting direct feedback from the people that are either choosing or not choosing to buy your putter, and the reasoning behind it. And so it's a cornerstone of our company, really, is our presence on social media. And then as far as YouTube is concerned, I'll tell you a funny story. So there was a guy whose nickname is the Birdman, and he's on Facebook, and he's in all the groups, all the forums or whatever, and major golf nerd, and a really funny guy. And for 6 straight months, the dude was a straight hater. He was like a devout even roll guy, and he's like, even roll's better. Here's why. Blah blah blah. But if you want to send me one, I'll try it. And and we're like, screw you, and and then so then finally he buys one on eBay and tells this group that we were in that he's got this putter and he's going to start testing it. And we saw him set up with it, and it was totally misfit. Toes like 2 inches off the ground. And I'm like, okay, if you're going to like. And everybody listened to this guy because he's funny as shit. And so I'm like, all right, if you're gonna do this, let's at least get you a proper putter. So we fit him up for a putter. We send him one, and he loves it. And he starts making more putts, and he makes this video, and it's all relative, but like we went from selling like 5 putters a month to 30 putters a month, and just by sending this guy a putter. So for the cost of a single putter, our sales increased. And that was sort of the birth of us realizing, like, why don't we, if we believe in the product, why aren't we just sending them to people to the people that are talking shit? Like, if to the people that wanted to be haters. And that was kind of the birth of like that the marketing strategy of just standing behind your product in a way that you're willing to give it to people that we're not paying. So they're well within their rights to say this is garbage and it's snake oil and I don't like it. And they didn't. And instead they said they loved it. And then their friends who also do the same thing would hit us up and say, I'll do a review. And so we've developed relationships with all these reviewers. And again, the value for us is the feedback. So every time one of these people that we work with, makes a video or whatever, there's 2 pages of comments where we're learning how to make a better product. It's amazing.
That's awesome. Love to hear that, especially from the YouTube side, the trolls, all of it. I love how, I'm big on the YouTube side. Joe, not so much, but I just love the content creation. The YouTube golf fascinates me, so I love to hear kind of you have that same mindset. And you mentioned how you're still in the DM. That's how we got set up. I sent you a DM. So ironically enough, I love to hear that. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, that's super cool. I guess speaking of, the naysayers or people being skeptical, I guess what's one of your biggest hurdle, or maybe a response to skepticism? Or I think we watched a cool clip of you describing your interaction with a tour player or a tour player's coach or something like that. But maybe someone coming at you saying, Sam, I don't necessarily doubt the technology, but I've been practicing or using a toe hang putter or something like that for years, for decades. Are you sure trying something like this now is going to be that practical or that beneficial? I guess what would your response to something like that be?
Yes. The answer is yes. I believe truly in my bones that it works better for everybody. I also now, 7 years later, recognize that the learn curve for some people is slower than with others. And interestingly, the better the player, generally the harder the transition into our technology is, because to your point, they've used toe hang putters their whole lives, and if they're successful with using a toe hang or a face balance putter, then what they're successful at is manipulating that torque profile effectively. And when you don't need to do that anymore, the putter can feel really weird and vague at first. But it goes back to that kind of simple statement I made earlier, just the damn thing stays square by itself. Like, how can that not be better,
Yeah,
and so like
hard to argue that.
Yeah, and so I the best analogy is Bill's, which is really struck me when I was early on trying to explain to my friends why I'm using a branding iron, and he was like the most common, I wouldn't even say trolling comment, but just skepticism that we receive when people see the revealer demonstration is some version of, that's all fine and good that it stays square in a revealer, but I don't putt with a revealer. I put my hands on the putter, and it's not as though, they treat us as though we're claiming that the putter's just out of control, when you're swinging it. Like, no, like, we get it. Like, yes, of course you can control a putter and the torque profile of the putter, but why would you want to? In the same way that, like, within the best analogy is that within our arms, hands, wrists, fingers, we have the ability to drive a car straight even if the alignment is off and the car is pulling to the left. Why the hell would you want to? Like, it's just easier if the car's aligned straight, right? And and similarly, if you've always driven a car that has bad alignment to the left, at first it might feel a little weird, you know, when you step into one that just goes straight. That transitions in a car is a lot easier to make than with a putter, but it's still not that tough. I mean, we've got drills, we've got, you know, coaching that we utilize to help kind of get people into it. And I also say to those same skeptics that are like, well, this is, you know, snake oil because all you have to do is put your hands on the putter and it's not going to twist. It's like, well, if you're saying that, then you're saying that you also don't believe that anybody actually performs any differently with toe hang and face balance, right? Like, we've been fitting for torque the whole time. We just didn't call it torque. Like, we called it, you know, toe hang or face balance is the two worlds that you were supposed to live in. Well, guess what? The only difference between those two offerings is the torque profile, the way that they twist. There's been God knows how many studies proving that certain people react differently to certain torque profiles. So the industry already agrees that torque matters. It's just a matter of putting it in a different context and using some different vocabulary.
For sure. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I think the term torque is just so foreign to a lot of people in describing, you know, it's on a club head. So their initial reaction is like, oh, it must be snake oil, or it must be, you know, something.
Oh,
big.
totally, man. Golfers are a stubborn group.
Hey, I did my research, Sam. I went to the new PGA Superstore and I putted with all the putters over the last couple of weeks. Partially because I wanted to go check out the store, but partially because I really am curious. Like, I'm not a great putter, and I'm
you're a really bad putter, frankly.
Yeah, I'm a really bad putter, naturally. But
Lab Golf would suggest you're a better putter than you think.
But naturally, like I said, I've had a ton of guys on. I don't normally share DMs, but I don't know you have a very close relationship with Sean Walsh, but he said it's the best putter he's ever used, DF3, and he's been using it for the last few months. So naturally, I went and checked it out when I hear someone that good, and so I wanted to go try it out. But I did my research and stuff like that. But my question is, you work, and speaking of creators, you work with a ton of creators: Busted Jack, Brian Bros, Luke Kwan, just to name a few, right? But I feel like anyone who's not signed to a major club deal is using a lab putter. I feel like, why have you gone that route versus maybe the tour route? And I know you guys work with tour players, but it seems like you guys, like you said, you see the social media side. Why have you gone so heavy on the creator side, as far as like just working with those type of people?
I mean, a bunch of reasons. It's just better. It's better in every way. I mean, like the YouTube creators are more akin to your everyday golfer. You know, sure, like, you know, obviously Luke Kwan's a phenomenal player. The Busted Jack guys, I mean, they're good players. They're not tour players.
Right.
You know, they're me and you who are still grinding and still trying to figure it out. So so I feel like, you know, first of all, worth mentioning that until very recently, none of these folks were paid. You know, like, and the ones that are paid now started non-paid. Yeah. You know, they came to us after saying, like, I need to use this putter, but I'm getting 25 offers, you know, and this is my job, is to make YouTube content, and this is how I make money. Can we do some deals? And so we've worked out some deals. They're not significant. Like, they're not, you know, crazy things. So, yeah, I mean, we went that route early on because it's the only chance we had. We didn't have any marketing dollars. We didn't have any, you know, ability to do endorsement stuff. Additionally, the tour stuff is like, I don't know, it has served us very well, you know, as far as validating the product, that people know that we don't pay tour players, you know, and we don't, you know, like, there's so for the world to see people choosing this product, knowing that they're giving up endorsement dollars from any number of companies that would gladly throw them, you know, $50,000 to $1 million a year to use their putter, is incredibly validating. And so that's been part of the strategy. But I love the access. I love the feedback. Like, the YouTube guys, there's just such a closer relationship, and this is no slight against tour players. They're just busy, man. I mean, these guys are
it's hard to
just
get a hold
so
of
busy. Yeah, it's hard to get a hold of them. It's hard to get real feedback from them. It's hard to get the time when we're out there,
right?
You know, on tour to really get the stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just it. I guess the shorter answer is the YouTube stuff is just much more accessible.
No, I agree, and partially, I love YouTube. I think YouTube golf is only going to get bigger versus the pro golf scene. I mean, we are where we're at today, where who's live signing. Like, I don't like watching pro golf that much anymore. One, it's boring, too many commercials. Like, YouTube is so much more relatable. I don't get commercials because I pay YouTube for no ads. Like, they're more accessible. Like you said, it's easier to get a hold of these guys. They're more keen to come on and do stuff like this and work with them. And like you said, it's real-time feedback. And sometimes, honestly, a lot of these creators, like you look at the Bryan Bros, who started YouTube so long ago, and I love the Bryan Bros. George and Wesley are some of the nicest people ever. They're awesome, and they have taken off. And like, someone like that, who Wesley plays pro golf, but they don't show him on TV. Like, he's more watched on YouTube. And I feel like for you,
right,
you're getting access to millions or hundreds of thousands of views on a weekly basis versus where the tour is like, 80K for these fall events. And it's like, man, just the eyes on YouTube versus the tour it's crazy. And YouTube is awesome. I love it. And I love how you have kind of understood the future of content. And that's kind of where you've invested your time. And it's cool that I didn't know you didn't pay until recently, it's like, pay those guys that they're picking your product. Like you said, that's got to be very fulfilling.
Oh, it's great, and I love that we're in a position to be able to pay those guys because they've done so much for us. And I'm also super hard, whether or not people believe it or not. Like, if we're talking to anybody about doing any kind of investment deal, or any kind of endorsement deal, they have to love the putter first.
Yeah.
Like, there's months that go by of them trying it, and they literally need to convince me that they're not just, looking for a deal.
Right.
And so they have to be in before they do it. And yeah, it is the future. I mean, golf is in a really, really interesting place.
That's for sure.
The timing of where we're at and where, YouTube's, sort of explosion and then a slight retraction. I mean, I just saw an article that suggesting YouTube actually went down.
Yeah.
Golf viewership went down, not insignificantly this last year. But it's still just a wonderful way to watch golf. I enjoy it more, same as you. Like, I wish that for the at least Thursday, Friday, they did, that the tour broadcast was the same as most YouTube videos, which is you take a 4.5-hour round of golf and cut it down to 90 minutes. Like, let's do that for, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Exactly.
And then watch it in real time on Sunday. So, the content creators, they know what's up.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, I mean, on top of that, back to the tour stuff, how cool was Lucas Glover then? With here's a guy who's known to have the yips kind of
Adam Scott
through
too.
it. Yeah. And, found a little something and went off, I think he's on what is it, third or fourth LAB putter he's been, in the rotation?
He put a DF3 in play one time. I don't know if he ended up with one of the Oz sweeper protos. But no, he's still using the very first putter we sent him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's super cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's actually in pretty good shape too. Usually, 4 or 5 years, or 2-3 years deep, things starts to look pretty beat up. I ran into him at the Open and checked out the putter. It still looks like it's in pretty good shape.
Cool. You said it was an original DF model or a DF3?
No, he's a Mez guy.
He uses the Mez. He put the DF3 in play for 1 week.
I see.
But ultimately went back to his Mez. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Go ahead, Marco.
Go ahead. No, I would say, speaking of the Oz, I know Adam Scott, obviously that's something that he's used and put in play recently over the past, I don't know how long it's been in kind of production. I know you mentioned it's dropping soon, but did he have any input in the technology, or I guess, what do you, I thought I read an article that, he did. Okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, it was all him. The existence of that putter. So he and I played a round of golf in L.A. It'll be 2 years ago in February, and as the mailer we sent out goes. You can actually see the physical napkin drawing. And, you know, we just started talking shapes and reminiscing about our old, you know, favorites. Like both of us had a deep affection for sort of that D-shaped mid-mallet. Rossi 2 was, you know, one of our favorites, and some Cameron models that we both liked. And we were like, hey, let's design a putter together. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And we started there with the napkin drawings, and then
that's so cool.
He came out to Eugene that June and spent a couple days here, and we worked with the engineers to sort of draw out some concepts, and we started prototyping them and eliminating this one, eliminating that one, and refining this one and refining that one until we ultimately landed on a shape that we liked. Unfortunately, the you know, for commercial purposes, obviously the sweeper models are the long putters are not quite as popular as our conventional ones, so the conventional was prioritized. We've made some prototypes of the sweeper, but it was not quite there yet. He used it for a couple days at the President's Cup.
I remember.
Sent back some feedback on things. So I think we're about a couple weeks away from having some prototypes on the sweeper to send him. But in the meantime, an interesting thing a lot of people don't know about Adam. First of all, he's one of the best putters in the world, and for whatever reason, not for whatever reason, everybody remembers back in 2012 or whatever it was, he had a good chance to win the British and really, you know, struggled coming down the stretch with the putter. He is statistically, over the last 3-4 years, one of the best putters on the planet. I don't think he's finished outside the top 30 at the end of year in strokes gained. His approach to putting is different. The way that he practices is different. The way that he thinks about putting is different. And if you actually spent time with him on a putting green or in a practice round, or where you're not just getting little snippets on a broadcast once every 6 holes or whatever, he'd blow your mind. Like his,
he's a big aim point guy, right?
He is, and everything he does is cool, right?
Yeah.
He's just a cool guy.
Yeah, he's a handsome fellow.
And he's a handsome fellow. He moves cool. The swing is pretty. The stroke is beautiful, and his approach to aim point is, you know, a little bit cooler than everybody. He's not super nitty gritty on the calibration and the stuff. He's you know, just kind of looking to get general frames of reference of where he's trying to stroke the putt, and then just kind of lets it go. But anyway, the interesting thing about him, he does not use a long putter for the vast majority of his casual golf, of which he plays a bunch. Like he's not like a lot of pros out there. Like the dude.
Oh, really?
He loves the game.
That's awesome.
He is still a total golf nut, and so he plays a ton of casual golf. And yeah, he's usually just kind of messes around. He'll use a conventional one. He'll use an arm lock. He'll use a counterbalance. He'll screw around. So he's been having a really good time this last month and a half screwing around with the conventional sized Oz putters.
Nice. That's awesome. Well, that's a really cool Adam Scott story. That's cool that you got literally designed a putter with him. Speaking of
awesome.
PGA Tour stuff, my question is, do you find it easier? I don't know if easier is the right word, but do you find it easier to work with like PGA Tour versus LAB? And I don't want to get into the whole like debate, but I'm just curious from a manufacturer's perspective. Do you find it easier to work with certain guys on certain tours just based on where they're at?
Within the tour sort of ranking of what's easier, there's absolutely differences between them. The PGA Tour is really tough. It's extremely chaotic out there. There's so many reps, you know. I mean, on at a bigger event or something, there's going to be on the putting green, which is, you know, our domain.
Right.
You're going to have 12 different manufacturers all trying to do the same shit. There's, you know, in a given field, 30 guys, you know, that can even look at our putter because they're not under contract, 30, 40, sometimes 50 guys. And then there's, you know, 11 other companies all going after those same guys, and they don't like it. They want to just practice. They're showing up to these events to get ready for a tournament. They don't want some, you know, glorified panhandlers coming up there trying to show putters in their faces. And so, and it's super competitive, you know, and the other reps for years try to undercut us and devalue the tech and, you know, and all this stuff. So PGA Tour is tough. LIV was amazing, you know. I mean, for us, like, we were the only manufacturer out there, and it only started because the first stateside LIV event was in Portland. It was right up the road. So we were like, you know, what the hell? Let's go up there and check it out. And the guys are so much more relaxed, and so much less chaos out there, no real competition, and most of those guys didn't have club deals anymore. So it was a great opportunity for us. And despite what the world would believe as far as the divide between LIV and PGA, the LIV guys and the PGA guys, they all live in Jupiter, or thereabouts. They're all still friends. They all still golf together. They all still, do it. And it was actually LIV that helped, us gain some steam on the PGA Tour.
Oh wow!
Because those guys were coming home and playing together, and a lot of the LIV guys were messing around with labs, and then when the tour guys would see us out there, they'd be like, oh yeah, okay, fine, and I'll give it a shot. And then within the scope of players, just as you can imagine, they're all very different personalities, and some of them are high maintenance, some of them are low maintenance, some of them want to know everything about the science, some of them want to know nothing about the science. It's definitely been surprising how few. There's a lot of guys that are just pure natural talents that don't really have much of an interest in understanding what it is that they're using, other than to notice whether or not the ball is going where they're trying to make it go. And so that was interesting, because I'm very different. I'm a good player, but super tech minded. I'm always learning. I'm always educating myself and trying and experimenting and all that stuff. So my assumption was I was going to get on tour and it was going to be a bunch of nerds like me that just want to know all this stuff. And it was a pretty hard transition for me to learn to keep it cool. And if I'm totally honest, I never made the transition. I still suck. If it's my opportunity to go, work with one of the more go with the flow types, I don't do so great. So now we've got multiple reps on every tour, and that's no longer my job anymore. And the guys who are professionals at developing relationships and delivering information in certain ways are in charge now.
Yeah, Phil Mickelson. I'm curious if you had any conversations with him at all, because I know he's a
lot.
guy. Yeah,
he's actually into a mez now.
He is.
Yeah, Phil's amazing. He is. He's. If you had asked me 7 years ago whose cell phone number I'd rather have, Tiger's or Phil's, I'd have said Phil's in a heartbeat. And and in meeting with him and working with him a little bit, it only confirmed what I always knew, which is that he is the smartest mind in golf. I mean, he is absolutely brilliant. There's very few people that I can't go toe to toe with as far as golf nerding. And Phil blows my mind, and the stuff that he does to the amount of thought that goes into a single putt would blow your mind, to a point where some people would say it's too much, but it's not. It's just how he does it and how he thinks, and amazing opportunity to watch him sort through this, and the feedback that we get about the product from him it's like the best. It's just incredible. It's so thorough.
That's super cool. That's super cool. How did that relationship start, if you don't mind us asking? Who was the first to put a lab putter in his hand, or how did that get kicked off?
It was pretty funny, actually. So, Lab Golf's factory sits on a golf course. I'll turn it around so you guys can see, but this is Emerald Valley Golf Course. That's the 18th fairway you guys are looking at. I can spit on the 18th, the first tee from my office. This is also where the University of Oregon Ducks play. And there was a Ducks player who lives in San Diego who plays with Phil a lot. And so one day we get a call from him, or not we. So his name is Matt. Matt called Liam, who's our tour rep. Liam called me, said, Phil wants to try a putter, and so Phil, I guess, plays with a couple other guys that had the putters, and he always used to make fun of him when it was just the big DF 2.1. Then the DF 3s came in, and apparently what happened was he grabbed one of them and putted one-handed, right-handed with their putters, and had an interesting enough experience that he wanted to try one. So he told Matt to get him one. Matt calls Liam. Liam calls me. I tell Liam, we need some specs. Liam tells Matt. Matt tells Phil. Phil tells Matt. Matt tells. We went back and forth with this chain gang thing,
That's awesome.
through 3 different times before I was like, can somebody please just give me his phone number? And and he was so nice, man. I mean, he insisted on paying for it, and obviously I wouldn't allow it, but you know, he was super humble and really easygoing, and I was actually really surprised at first. I thought he was going to want to go super nerd. And he was really clear, like, no, don't overwhelm me. Let's start with one putter. Let's see how it goes. I can give you some feedback, and we'll see how it is. And so yeah, that's how it got going. Was through a couple of buddies at his home course in San Diego.
That's awesome.
So cool.
Joe, I'm ready for the rapid fires. Do you have anything else before we do that? Any other questions you wanted to ask?
Let's do it. Let's get into it.
Okay, cool. So Sam, rapid fires, simple golf questions. Try and do these at the end of every episode. Feel free to take as long or as short on these as you want. So I always start with this one. Favorite golf course?
Marion.
Marion. Okay. What is the nicest or most prestigious golf course you've ever played?
I played some good ones this summer. I mean, I was out there in Long Island, and I played national.
Nice.
I think probably National or Marion would probably be right there. Yeah.
Good choice. How about favorite player, past or present?
Favorite player, past or present? Are we talking favorite golf swing? Are we talking favorite character in the game? Or are we talking
favorite golfer?
Favorite golfer. Something you admire about him.
I'd have to say Phil.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. Favorite creator? YouTuber or Instagrammer?
Favorite YouTube creator?
Yeah.
I'll tell you who I've really been enjoying lately is Dave Fink.
Okay.
That dude's a blast. He's so smart, and his whole journey into the game I find really remarkable. I love the energy. I'd love to see him playing some more rounds, with people and kind of getting into the matches and stuff like that. I know he's a really good player. I like his stuff a lot. But I love all of it, man. I mean, I'm just getting into Grant's, content. I think he does a great job. And the Busted Jack guys have always been awesome to me.
Busted Jack, Brian Bros are some of my. I love. I had Wesley on when he was in Detroit. He gave me like 10 minutes in the Rocket Mortgage parking lot. One of my favorite people, nicest guys I've ever met. So naturally,
the two of those guys,
so cool.
Like the thought of being able to do that with. I mean, they're probably my favorite. I think.
Okay.
It's hard to choose.
For sure.
But what I like about them is the variance in their content. They play plenty of rounds. They play plenty of matches. They do some instructional stuff. They do some funny stuff. They do a bunch of shorts. They're just implicit in their whole shtick is they're freaking brothers who are competitive with each other, kind of, but loving, and I love it. And they're so funny and they're so different. And working with the two of them, it's been remarkable. I mean, they are completely different personalities.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, I've really enjoyed working with all of them, but can't really pick a favorite, I don't think. But yeah, I do enjoy it all.
Go ahead, Joe.
Nice. How about do you have a favorite on-camera golf moment?
Like for me, or that I've seen out in the world?
For you,
your coolest golf moment on camera. Or we can go off camera. Just your coolest golf moment in your life. Let's just go with that because
the coolest golf moment. It's going to be easier to narrow it down on camera. Let me see here. Let me throw out a few. I made in the first Beat the Boss episode with me against Liam, who's our tour rep. I made the nastiest 30-footer down a hill. It broke about 9 feet. Put it right in the middle to go extra holes. That one was great.
Love that.
What putter did you make it with?
Oh, it was the very first DF 2.1 that we had ever used tungsten instead of freaking lead shot in. So it was a prototype DF 2.1. So that was a good moment. Beating the Busted Jack guys and the 2-on-2 scramble was a big one. That one that went a long way. And I can definitely tell you what my least favorite on-camera moment is. much more easily.
Yeah, do that. Let's hear that one. That's a good question.
Fucking worst. Ugh. I was lucky enough to get to play in Eric Lang's Eric Anders Lang, you guys know he is Random Golf Club.
Yeah. Yep.
So Eric and I have gotten quite close, and he is one of the most special human beings on planet Earth. I mean, he is so cool. And early on in our relationship, he was kind enough to let me be on one of the breaking series things we did out at Bandon.
Yeah.
And I had the worst day. Like, I played that course a million times. I'm a good player, you know.
Yeah.
And like, and we got out there, and my goal was like to break 80, which is a joke, you know, especially on the day that we went out there, like not a breath of wind. And those courses are not that tough if the wind's not blowing. Like the fairways are 100 yards wide, the greens roll fine. And I was just worthless. I was just like absolutely worthless, in no small part because of my really poor chipping. I was greenside on all 4 par 5s and played them in 2 over par. And there's a moment on the 13th hole where I laid the sod over like my 5th chip of the day or something like that, and I go like this, like intending just to toss the wedge down on the ground. It would bounce like wedges do. I happened to find the one completely soft spot in the entirety of the Oregon coast, and this thing just goes straight into the ground, and it's like the shaft's just sticking out of the ground. And like Eric's a big deal. Random Golf Club's a big deal, and the vitriol and hate that I received for that moment in that comment section still haunts me. Like I'm so embarrassed, and like to the point where I'm like, do I need to like issue a statement?
Yeah.
You know, it was so
That's
bad.
awesome.
It was still the most embarrassing thing I've ever done.
That's awesome. Oh man, well Sam, that seems like a good spot to end it. Thank you so much for coming on the Scratch Golf Show. Really enjoyed the conversation. Before we sign off, any closing words? Anything you'd like to plug? We're not super big, but I always like to sign off with that. So anything you want to plug? Anything else? Just let us know. Other than that, man, we really appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no plugs. So, go check out labgolf.com and watch the videos and give it a shot. If you're on the fence, read the reviews, man. Most of the people that take the plunge are really happy they did.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks, Sam. Really appreciate it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the interview. Like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate it.